What's up everyone, I'm PulseEffects, and I'm here to explain all the little details that make up a Pokemon Black and White speedrun. The footage you're seeing is a race versus me and Swiftalu live on the Gmaes Done Quick Channel. So if you'd like to watch the run without commentary over it, be sure to check out the links in the description, and be sure to also check out my racing partner, Swiftalu. Pokemon Black and White speedrun started by changing the time and date to meet the requirements of a seed that is researched by each specific runner. The reason why this is specific to each runner is due to a thing called the DS MAC address. A DS MAC address is a unique identifier found in each individual Nintendo DS system. In Pokemon Black and White, we'll take this unique value from the Nintendo DS MAC address and use it when seeding the RNG for this game. So even you sitting at home might possibly have the world's best Nintendo DS for speedrunning Pokemon Black and White. So after setting our time and date, we enter the game at a very specific second and some very specific button combinations held while the main menu fades to white. With this, the run officially begins. From here, we pick boy or girl based on our preferences and name them a single character letter in order to minimize any time loss from text that scrolls by when the character name shows up. Our adventure starts in Nuvema Town, surrounded by our rivals Cherry and Bianca, before given the opportunity to pick our starter. For an 80% speedrun, the fastest starter Pokemon is going to be Snivy, due to its ability to learn and use HM01 Cut. This also lets us skip having to fight an optional trainer in order to grab one of the elemental monkeys to use for Cut later. Oshawott could also be used for this purpose, but we decide that we want to use Snivy instead because of its access to Coil later on. And if we give our rivals Coil, it ends up wasting a little bit more time than it would by just picking Snivy ourselves. The Snivy chosen is manipulated to have an either attack boosting nature or a speed boosting nature to maximize its potential for the entire 4 fights we use it for. Once we absolutely obliterate our room and force our mom to clean it up for us, we follow a specific path routed by each runner to make sure we get no encounters along the way to the next town. As we enter Accumula Town, we get our first glimpses at the evil Team Plasma and their leader, Jetsis. This is then followed up by an easy battle with a reoccurring rival, N. After this battle, we exit the town, receive our running shoes from our mother, and go back into the gate to save for the final RNG manipulation of the game. The reason why we go back into the gate is due to there being no moving NPCs around. Saving with NPCs can cause this manipulation to become inconsistent and is overall not worth it. So much like the manipulation at the beginning of the game, we change our time and dates and meet the requirements the game tells us when researching our seeds for our brand new main Pokemon, Lillipup. The Lillipup line is a very unexpected choice for the fastest Pokemon in Black and White, given how many insane Pokemon there are in these games. But this little pupper was built for speedrunning. The previous fastest Pokemon for an 80% speedrun was the Tepig evolutionary line. When timing out the differences between the Lillipup and Tepig evolutionary line, something very interesting was discovered. Turns out that each time you send a Pokemon out in battle, there's a small little animation that plays due to the weight of a Pokemon. So the more a Pokemon weighs, the more time it actually takes to start up a battle. And this little discovery ended up saving an entire minute of time save on Tepig just from this small little oversight. With the Lillipup line, it is manipulated to be guaranteed to have an adamant nature with perfect IVs in everything except for special attack, since Lillipup will only be using physical moves. We also guarantee the ability pickup so that once it evolves, it gets Sand Rush instead of Intimidate. The reason for this is due to the extra text that Intimidate will produce each time that Herdier or Stoutland is sent out into battle. Once the manipulated Lillipup is caught, the RNG manipulation is then extended even further in order to minimize the amount of encounters produced when reaching the next town. From here, we're then greeted by a few easy rival fights before heading into the gym. The gimmick of this gym is based off of the starter Pokemon you choose. Due to us choosing Snivy as our starter, we will be facing off against Chili. With lack of setup moves and X items at this point, the gym is won by spamming Bite against Lillipup. Once Chili sends out Pansear, it becomes a 96% to 2-hit KO with Leer into 2 tackle. Once the gym is cleared, we are then rewarded with the most important TM in the game, Workup. Workup is a TM that increases our attack by 1 stage each time we use it in battle. Not only does it save a ton of time to teach to Lillipup, but also saves a ton of money from not having to buy X items later on in the game. From here, we progress past a bunch of easy fights, conserving our tackles as much as possible, until we finally get out of the city. These twins unfortunately stop us with a mandatory double battle where we sacrifice our Snivy in order to have only 1 Pokemon in our party alive. Having only 1 Pokemon in your party or 1 Pokemon alive in your party will let you skip future double battles. During this double battle, once one of the Purloin is taken down, we level up enough to learn a new move, Takedown. This is an 85% accurate move with a 90 base power with Recoil. This, unfortunately, is the best move the Lillipup line will have until the next gym, but it gets us through the next couple of fights pretty quickly. We are met with yet another easy battle against Sharon, and then a little bit more manipulation. With precise enough movement going from the Lillipup catch all the way to this point, you can manipulate yourself one last encounter with very precise movement. This Pokemon will either be a Woobat or a Pidove for their specific ability to use the HM for Fly. Fly will get us to locations that the bike will take too much time to reach later on. Shortly after catching our flyer, we then evolve our Lillipup into a Herdier, buy a couple of X items in Nacrene City, and make our way into Lenora's gym. Lenora is highly considered to be one of the harder fights in the game. We start off by having our resident flying Pokemon in the front of the party in order to set up a guard spec. Setting up a guard spec like this will not only let us skip a future double battle by sacrificing our flyer, but it'll also prevent moves like Leer from being able to reduce our stats on Lillipup. We then proceed to work up twice to increase our attack to +2, use 1x speed to boost our speed to +1, and hope that we can land a takedown on Herdier and Watchog. Once defeating Lenora, we are then rewarded with the TM for Retaliate. Retaliate is a 70 base power move and can only be used 5 times before we run out of PP, which is a little bit less than Takedown. This move is mostly used for its consistent 100% accuracy, as well as saving PP for other normal type moves later on in the game. From here, we make our way through a few easy Team Plasma battles in Pinwheel Forest, cross this gigantic bridge, and into Castelia City for our next gym bat. After clearing out enough trainers, you level up just before Berg to learn the move Crunch. Crunch is one of the most powerful dark type physical moves that ranges in from 80 base power. Crunch will end up saving us a lot of PP for our normal type moves, as well as be able to take out ghost types that normally we wouldn't be able to hit with our normal type moves. Speaking of Berg is the Castelia gym leader and highly to be considered the worst fight in the game. This is due to Berg leading off with a Whirlipede that has Poison Tail and Screech. Screech is a move that will lower your defense by 2 stages each time it's used, but as long as we stay below 75% HP, it should never go for it. Poison Tail, on the other hand, is a high crit ratio move that has a 10% chance to poison you and a 12.5% chance to critical hit every single turn it's used. This becomes a huge problem due to us having to set up to +4 attack and +1 speed in order to have enough attack and speed to sweep the rest of this fight. And unfortunately, even with +4 attack, it's not enough to make Retaliate a 100% range on Berg's final Pokemon, Leavanny. If we end up missing this 81% damage range, Leavanny can take us out with a high crit ratio move, Razor Leaf. It's an absolutely ridiculous fight, but with Berg out of the way, we make our way to another easy fight with Bianca and Cherry. Before we enter these fights, we set up a repel on a very specific step. This repel wears off in an exact points to where we can pass an optional trainer in the desert. We call this type of trainer that will move back and forth a spinner. Unlike normal trainers, spinners usually spin on a cycle, and if we're quick enough with either turning, taking a step, or biking past them, we can make it so that we'll never have to fight them in the first place. From here, we make it into Nimbasa City, where we're greeted with Team Plasma bullying this old man. So, we bully them in return, and get rewarded with the fastest method of travel, a bicycle. We then head straight into the Pokemon Center to the bottom vendor who's selling an absolutely busted TM, Return. Return is probably the most busted normal type move in the game. Its base power can go all the way up to 102 once friendship is maximized with your Pokemon. And with the normal type same type attack bonus from Lillipup, it becomes a massive tool for us. From here, we then exit the center, have a absolutely beautiful day with N on the Ferris wheel, and with Paralyzed Heals in hand, we make our way into the Electric Gym. This gym has a few cycles on the roller coaster that are really easy to hit and usually give you enough time to heal in between battles. Once we finish the trainers and heal off any paralysis that might have come from one of the 3 evil Emolgas you take out along the way, it's time for a battle with the gym leader, Elisa. Elisa's fight is pretty easy as long as you don't get paralyzed, which can be pretty tricky considering both Emolgas have static. Upon contact, static has a about 30% chance to produce a paralysis on your Pokemon. So we'll typically make the fight work like this. We set up work up turn 1 and use an X speed if we end up getting crit on the first turn. This lets us outspeed all these evil squirrels and her final Pokemon Zebstrika while being able to one-shot every single one of them with ease. From here, we make our way to Driftvale City and attempt to not lose time to rocking out to the beat. Pass through cold storage for more Team Plasma and make our way into Clay's gym. Clay is a very easy fight, but can also be a bit scary with his Excadrill. All of his Pokemon except Excadrill can be one-shot by return, but if you set up on Excadrill, it can do a ton of damage with Bulldoze or a Slash Crit. So instead of setting up on Excadrill, we take our time to work up on Clay's Palpitoad. Palpitoad will generally go for one of 2 things: Aqua Ring or Bulldoze. Aqua Ring will make Excadrill much easier to handle. But if you get Bulldoze, however, you and Palpitoad end up being a speed tie, since Bulldoze can lower your speed by 1 stage. This means Palpitoad has 1 more chance to go for a Bulldoze, which wastes even more time. And even if you do win the speed tie, Excadrill at -1 speed is guaranteed to outspeed you. This Excadrill has quite the move pool, but after 2 hits on the Excadrill and hopefully not a lot of crits, it's taken down with ease. With Clay down, time for yet another Team Plasma section in inside of Chargestone Cave after another battle with Bianca and a few spinner passes along the way. Once inside Chargestone Cave, we receive one of the most busted items ever created in a Pokemon game. We receive the Lucky Egg. The Lucky Egg will give us 1.5 times the amount of EXP we would normally earn, which is nearly double the amount as usual. This gets us enough levels to just plow through the game even faster than usual. So after a giant sequence of fights with Team Plasma and N are over, we're forced to go to the top of Celestial Tower to get Skyla to go back to her gym. This place is super weird and has the interesting mechanic of pressing B to force trainers to turn in other directions. Once we ring the bell at the top, we then fly back to Metropolitan City for a nice little gym fight with our Sky Waifu. Her gym is filled with OSHA-approved cannons and a ton of annoying birds that love to spam detect to waste our time and precious PP. In particular, there's one important trainer that can give you a problem based off of the gender of your Lillipup. Worker Arnold Swoobat has access to attract, and because it's a male Swoobats, any female Lillipup has a chance to get attracted by them. But thankfully, due to random trainer AI, this is only a 1 out of 4 chance to happen, and luckily, this is the only fight in the game where Lillipup's gender makes a difference. So after a possibly annoying fight with Arnold, we level up to get access to yet another insane move called Reversal. Reversal is a move that inflicts more damage the lower your HP is. Its base power can be anywhere between 20 base power all the way to a whopping 200 if your HP gets low enough. And now with Reversal in our hands and a menacing cannon shot straight into the wall, it's time for a fight with Skyla. This is arguably the easiest gym fight in the game, where all you really need to do is hit work up once, and then you can sweep the rest of Skyla's Pokemon with ease. From here, we head over to Route 7, where the date you set when catching Lillipup can actually make a big difference on whether or not a Lillipup is considered runnable. Because we're required to speedrun during a winter month, some routes will randomly have hail in them, and if Route 7 happens to be one of those routes with hail, the Lillipup is instantly found unrunnable. This is due to us being forced into another rival fight, as well as this hiker above him. They end up being quite the nightmare when you have to take hail every single turn. Not only is this damage very scary, but it's also a massive amount of time loss, having the text scroll by telling you how many times this hail pelted your puppy in the face. Once we finish this fight with Charon, we then attempt to manipulate our HP to get somewhere around 1 to 100 in order to get more base power for Reversal later on. Speaking of winter, by the way, Twist Mountain is the big reason why we want to speedrun during the winter month. When you arrive at Twist Mountain during the winter, this place is entirely covered in snow, which will let us go straight to our destination. If you play during any of the other months, you'll have to go through a ton of extra tunnels. Once we reach the end of the tunnel, we find ourselves in Icarus City, where we bike very precisely between a conga line and into the gym. The gym is filled with some very fun puzzles, but more importantly, some very awful, snotty teddy bears made of ice. Every single Cubchoo in this gym will have access to the move Endure. Normally, these Cubchoos are a one-shot, but when these Cubchoos use Endure, they're guaranteed to live on 1 HP, and this wastes a ton of time in PP. Did I mention, by the way, that this is an any percent run and not an any percent glitchless speedrun? Well, funny thing about that, these rocks right here were actually not programmed to have collision in them. So we can slip right through them and are able to pass this final trainer without having to fight them and go directly to Bryson for another gym fight. Bryson has 2 different fights to him. If you happen to get your HP all the way down to 15 on that hiker, all you have to do is click Reversal and it'll one-shot every single one of his Pokemon. In most situations, however, you're gonna have to click Work Up and use a return. But his lead Vanillish is somewhat of a problem with that. This little guy typically will go for one of 2 moves: Acid Armor or Mirror Shot. Acid Armor will raise his defense by 2 stages, making return a 93% range, which I'd argue is the lesser of 2 evils. Mirror Shot has a chance to lower your accuracy by 1 stage. What this essentially means is every time you go for a 100% accurate move, it is now a 75% accurate move instead. Having to hit 75% accurate moves constantly is a very terrifying thing. And if you end up wasting too much PP, you're gonna have to go inside the Pokemon Center. But without the accuracy drops or missed ranges, this gym leader goes down with ease. After the gym, we're stuck in a giant loop of nearly 20 minutes of Team Plasma fights, going from Dragon Spiral Tower above Icarus City, and then back down to Relic Castle, south and to the left of Nakreen City Desert. After this long and drawn out section of story progression, it's then time for our final rival fight against Bianca. Heading to the right of Icarus City, winter comes in very handy on this route. With every section of water being frozen, we can avoid having to use and teach Surf, along with avoiding unnecessary time loss from having to use Repel here. Once we reach Bianca, she goes down pretty easily, and now we get to head into the city of the final gym, Opalucid City. You'll notice a few version differences in this city when running between Pokemon Black and White. So in Pokemon Black, you're greeted with a more futuristic version of the city, and will have to face face off against final gym leader, Jaiden. This gym is once again a pretty easy one. The only thing you really have to worry about is making sure your HP doesn't get too low due to rough skin on every single Drudagon in this gym. Speaking of which, Jaiden also happens to have one with rough skin, but his Pokemon are also taken down after a single workup. Before heading off to the final section, I did want to mention a few things about Pokemon White version, and here to talk about that is my GDQ race partner, Swiftalu.
In Pokemon White version, you instead enter a more rustic version of the city instead to face off against the gym leader. In this version, the gym leader is Iris instead, who you met in Castelia City earlier in the game. HP is still a concern here, but not as much as Black version since you don't have to worry about Iris's Drayano hurting you with rough skin, since usually by the time you get to her, you have just enough HP to be safe for the next 2 fights. The strategies here are the same as in Black, a single workup and sweeping with return or crunch depending on the next Pokemon.
Thanks, Swift. And now we make our way towards the exit of the city, but not before being interrupted by Professor Juniper. We let her know very firmly that yes, we did in fact regret our journey to save a few text boxes and get rewarded with a Master Ball. From here we go on to Route 10 to enjoy some absolutely banger music while setting up repels for Victory Road. There's however one trainer that can make a small difference in how you play the Elite Four in Victory Road. This ace trainer happens to be the only mandatory trainer left in the game, and they have a Zeb Striker that knows Spark. If you get hit and or paralyzed by Spark, this will not only lose you time, but cause you to have to do the Elite Four in a different order. For the Elite Four order, I'm gonna go ahead and pass it back to Swift, since she had a big part in routing out the Elite Four order we know today.
For the Elite Four, we have a goal of getting under 20 HP to sweep Grimsley with Reversal since it will be just enough power to one-shot everything on his team. To do this, we start with fighting Marshall, because Marshall usually uses Bulldoze, which puts our HP at a pretty good range to take a hit from Sock with Karate Chop. We can't one-shot Sock, because it's sturdy, so this makes a perfect opportunity to get our HP low. Depending on your HP afterwards will depend on which Elite Four member you fight. If you have low HP, you can fight Grimsley next since you can set up your HP even lower if needs be by taking a Brick Break. If you have mid HP, you fight Chantel next and try to take a little bit more damage since her lead Pokemon doesn't hit very hard. If you have high HP, you fight Caitlyn instead to try and take a lot of damage since her lead Pokemon hits very hard. You don't really want to fight Grimsley last if you can, as he has a few extra text boxes compared to the other Elite Four members, so the ideal perfect order is Marshall, Grimsley, Caitlyn, and Chantel.
With the Elite Four down, it's now time to wrap up the game with a fight against our champion N. I guess that's fine. This will just add another 10 minutes of gameplay as this giant castle drills up from below and overtakes the entire Pokemon League. Honestly, no complaints from me. At this point, we'll be mashing through a ton of dialogue and make sure to position our character to the top of each staircase. This will get us in just the right position for the camera to zoom back into us slightly faster. And at the very end of the castle, we're greeted by Getsis, who walks like an absolute grandpa. So as to make sure that he doesn't walk too many tiles, we position our character one tile to the left of the doorway. And now it's finally time to confront our newly crowned champion, N. But before this, his giant dragon shows up to crash the party. In Pokemon Black version, Zekrom will be the one to crash through the wall and menacingly stand before us before this orb we had in our pocket starts up some kind of mini tornado. This spawns the legendary box art dragon, Reshiram. And due to the nature of this game, we are 100% forced to catch this Pokemon before we start up our fight with N. To add on to this mandatory catch, we also have no choice but to have Reshiram at the front of our party as our battle with N begins. The Pokemon Black version, N will lead off with Zekrom, and you will lead off with Reshiram. A standard fight with Reshiram begins with Dragon Breathing the Zekrom twice to feint it. As you feint the Zekrom with ease, out will come N's Caracosta. We make sure to Dragon Breath it one time in order to break its ability, Sturdy. In Generation 5 Pokemon, this ability was changed to have a similar effect to Focus Sash or Endure. When you try and one-shot a Pokemon with Sturdy, it's guaranteed to always live with 1 HP. So from here, we have to two-shot it by sacrificing our legendary dragon to give Stoutland a free setup. We then proceed to work up 2 times and hope we don't get cribbed by this menacing turtle. After 2 stat boosts in our attack, the rest of N's Pokemon fall with ease. As for Pokemon White, here's Swiftalu one last time to explain the final version difference between Pokemon Black and White speedruns.
In Pokemon White version, Reshiram instead bursts through the wall in the cutscene, and out pops our Zekrom that we also have to catch. This is mandatory. For the fight, we are forced to send out Zekrom first, which is a bit unfortunate for us since Zekrom can't two-shot Reshiram, unlike Reshiram two-shotting Zekrom. Instead, we use Dragon Breath the first turn, then swap to Stoutland and hope that Reshiram doesn't use Reflect on the turn we swap, otherwise we waste more time. We use Work Up once, then sweep the next 2 Pokemon with Return. For Kling Kling, depending on our HP, we can either Work Up again and use Reversal immediately, or Work Up and use Crunch plus Return. We need to be at +2 for Archeops, otherwise it won't go down in one hit. but we don't want to set up on Caracosta because Stone Edge hurts and has a high crit rate. We also don't want to set up on the next Pokemon after Klingklang because it has Hail, which makes the fight very slow. This fight is basically a giant mess compared to the clean fight that Black version has.
With N finally taken out for good, this is normally where the game would end. But it turns out that the true villain was Grandpa Getsus all along. Who would have known? We are then given a free heal before this final fight, and once again find ourselves leading with a Reshiram or Zekrom, depending on the game. But these fights end up being pretty much identical. The dragons lead off with their signature move, Fusion Flare or Fusion Bolt, in order to deal a good chunk of damage to Cofagrigus, as well as purposefully getting poisoned by Toxic. Once hit with poison, the AI would generally go for Protect to Toxic Solace, giving us a free switch back to our big puppy. With Cofagrigus HP low, we proceed to Crunch, go for no double Protect, and out comes Getsus' signature Pokemon, this extremely illegally underleveled Hydreigon. This Hydreigon has the move Focus Blast, and we wanted to hit us on purpose. We can set up a single workup here to get us into reversal range. If it happens to miss Focus Blast, we have a backup strategy of letting Getsus Boufflant hit us into reversal range, so we have low enough HP to one-shot his B-Shark. The rest of his Pokemon fall with ease. Final text boxes are cleared, game zooms in to N's face, and the timer fades out to black. If you made it this far into the video, you either really enjoy Pokemon speedruns, or you might want to consider leaving a like and subscribing to my YouTube channel, as well as ringing that bell for notifications for future videos covering Pokemon speedrunning content. And one last time, don't forget to check out my partner in crime Swiftalu, as well as my channel, where I'm pretty much live every single day on Twitch doing Pokemon speedruns. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you guys next time.